Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
I didn't say it wasn't his fault. I did not say he wasn't at fault. I did not say he was flawless. What I said is he's better than Kirk Cousins, and you don't need to be mentioning them in the same breath. Right, are you going to sit up here and say with a straight face that he is?
Life on the line.
Oh, God. Kirk Cousins or Lamar Jackson?
In a big game on
Lamar Jackson all day, every day, ahead of Kirk Cousins. Listen.
Cousins is underrated.
Listen. Is that water check? What are you drinking this morning? If you think that Kirk Cousins is Lamar Jackson,
he's made a lot of money in the
Kirk
NFL.
Cousins and Lamar Jackson, what's wrong with you? Please.
Oh my God,
you're the best.
I love how that show is just, and it's Stephen A. with a new co-host every day now. Right? It's like Michael Irvin on Monday, and then Mad Dog Russo. And whoever else, and they're just shouting at each other for 2 hours, arguing about Cousins versus Lamar.
Nobody moves his hand in the business better than the doggy.
Cousins?
I don't even know how he does it. His arms or his hands are constantly moving.
He's like he has no elbow joints or something.
Exactly.
It's just like his arms are just flailing around, just shouting sports takes.
He's underrated.
I am going to ask you that question here in just a second, but this is Purple Daily Vikings entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Hell of a start to the KOC era. If you've missed any of our Week 1 recap episodes, from the flagship Purple Daily to Trenches with Alex Boone, which was incredible this week, and Before We Die with Jesse and Thor, and also Realistic Randy Rants with Declan. All kinds of stuff available for you on the Purple Daily podcast feed and YouTube channel. The show is presented by our friends at TCL. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, home appliances. TCL bringing you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Also, those glorious Before I Die cans of Surly. People keep sending us the photos from the stadium, but also now they're in all these liquor stores around the Twin Cities. So
my liquor store.
Great to see. Nice.
Just last night, I went and said, you know what? I think it's a Logic Bomb type of night from Surly. But then I got there, and that's exactly right. I saw these Before I Die. That's the mission. That's the goal. And Surly has perfectly encapsulated it by using the Purple Daily mantra. As Phil just said, I think pretty much throughout the 5-state area, you can find Before I Die. So if you're a Vikings fan and you're on board with the mission to finally see a world championship in this town from the Purple, Before I Die is the beer for you from our friends at Surly Brewing.
Love it. All right, just before we get into our State of the Offense Thursday episode here, random Viking of the week later on too, answer the question. Answer the question that Stephen A. and Mad Dog Russo were shouting at each other for. Would you rather have Lamar Jackson or Kirk Cousins with a game on the line?
I'd rather have Lamar Jackson because I think he can do more. I also haven't seen. So here's the thing with Kirk. This answer might change in like a month or two. See, this is all predicated on what O'Connell is doing with Kirk. And what we saw on Sunday was great. But can I just purge my mind? Can I just automatically purge my mind of all the Kirk that I saw from 2018 to 2021? The answer is no. So given his ability to make plays in different ways, if I have to run a 99-yard drive late in a key game, right now I'm going Jackson because I appreciate what Kirk did. I also appreciate the fact that Justin Jefferson is flat out one of, if not possibly, the best receiver in this entire league. But I want Lamar Jackson's skill set for now.
Yeah, it's Lamar easily right now. I mean, by the way, Lamar Jackson won an MVP award not too long ago. He's a dynamic quarterback that is able to make something out of absolutely nothing. I can make the argument that he's had no weapons. He's had next to no help. That's been all Lamar Jackson. And John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens basically had to scheme a whole new offense around him and tailored around him because he's an explosive kind of player. I would still take Lamar Jackson over Kirk Cousins.
The gap is closing. I will say that. Last year, Lamar Jackson had his worst season. I think, like the contract difference, if we're including contract, which I know that's not the spirit of this discussion, then that kind of goes away once, because right now Lamar Jackson is this amazing discount the last 4 or 5 years, and then he, whether it's the Ravens or somebody else, he's going to get paid and make some ridiculous amount of money. But I think Kirk feels like he's on the ascent here under KOC, and Lamar Jackson has to prove more than just one game that last season wasn't a downturn. But I would still take Lamar Jackson's ability to make plays with his legs. But the gap is closer, much closer than it was 3 years ago.
And I believe the question was, though, one drive, life on the line, right?
Which is, imagine being in that scenario, by the way. Hey, so if you don't make the right decision, your life will end. Yes.
You die. I'm going with Jackson. For that one drive, I'm going to take my chances because at least I know that if there is a pressure and he is forced to make a play, he can run. Kirk's going to get you 7 yards, maybe.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the word pressure because that's a great segue into our first regular season State of the Offense episode here. Every Thursday, we devote a huge chunk of the show to just breaking down interesting trends and statistics and things involving the Vikings offense. So every week, I'm going to bring you a handful of key categories, and I'll usually bring you some fun stats or some different things, and we can kick these around. So the first category here is Cousins versus pressure. I want to start, before I get to the numbers here, I just want to make it clear, because I think a lot of people have a misperception that it's the offensive line's job and the organization's job to eliminate pressure so that a quarterback can operate without pressure. And when you watch a game, you blame the offensive line. Well, look at the pressure that the offensive line gave up. And I want to be clear about something. You will not avoid pressure in the NFL. Pressure is inevitable. Opposing defenses have highly paid machines who weigh 275 pounds of pure muscle, Aaron Donald types who are 300 pounds with 2% body fat, and they are paid millions of dollars to make the opposing quarterback uncomfortable. There's only so much you can do to eliminate pressure. And so, yes, you would like your offensive line and your organization to do as much as you can to build a brick wall. But at the end of the day, I was looking this up. Last season, the average NFL quarterback faced pressure 33% of dropbacks. Mm-hmm. So the lowest was the Buccaneers and Tom Brady only faced pressure 20% of the time. And I think some of that's just also Brady. It's a good offensive line, but it's Brady being able to do Brady things and know how to get the ball out and stuff. So the average quarterback faces pressure 33% of the time. Kirk was right around that, by the way. That it was like him and Josh Allen were like the middle ground. And even the quarterbacks that see the least amount of pressure are still seeing it 20% of dropbacks. So it is unavoidable. And great quarterbacks find a way even when pressured. And a lot of these pressures are coming, all right, it's late in the game, you're trailing, or it's a third down, and the opposing team knows you're going to pass, and so they're dialing something up, or they know that they don't have to worry about the run. So it's oftentimes it's the biggest situations, the third downs and the late half situations where you're going to face a lot of pressure, and the great quarterbacks find a way to still push the ball down the field, make big plays, and overcome it. And this has been my personal single biggest gripe with Kirk Cousins in the 4+ years that he's been the starting quarterback here. People all the time will take little screenshots on Twitter or whatever and just show you the back of the football card stats. You sit there and hate on Kirk Cousins. How can you complain about this? And it shows like 4,000 yards and 33 touchdowns. And I would say, well, first of all, listen to the show. Watch the show. We go deep on this stuff. But it's not just about the cumulative stats. In the NFL, it's about inside 2 minutes, inside 4 minutes, third down. How are you against inevitable pressure, right? And the last few seasons, Kirk has been statistically awful when pressured. He's been statistically great when not pressured, and so most people then come out and say, "Well, you make sure that he's not pressured." That is not possible. You can reduce it, and you can do a better job scheming around it, but he needs to be better when pressured. All right. Mm-hmm. So last season, he was 20th in PFF grade when pressured, 31st in yards per attempt when pressured, and 25th in average depth of throw when pressured. So he wasn't throwing the ball down the field. He wasn't completing passes down the field. And he was generally just a mess when he was pressured. The 2 years prior to that, it was a little bit better, but he was like 13th, 21st, 14th in those same categories. Mm-hmm. Week one game. It's one game. But week one, Kirk Cousins was the number 1 PFF graded quarterback when pressured. He was 6th in yards per attempt. He was 15th in average depth of throw, which is, mid-pack, obviously, but
you'll take it.
But a huge step up
Yes.
from where he ranked last year.
Yep.
So I just want to highlight that, again, that pressure is unavoidable in the NFL. You can reduce it to some extent, but you have to overcome it. And he has not been good at that statistically in his career. He was brilliant at it in week 1 against the Packers.
And that's where I think we saw a difference in his approach too. And look, I mean, this all goes back to, like, this is not just all about Kirk. This goes back to how Kirk is being coached and how the scheme works and what they tell Kirk you have to do without it being like this. If you screw up, you're in trouble. But you know what? There's going to be some problems at times, but we need you to deliver the football. And Justin Jefferson is never covered. I think it starts with a mindset approach, which is we need to change how you approach things, because nobody on this show has ever said Kirk Cousins can't make plays. Nobody has said, now can he scramble? Great. No. But veteran quarterbacks, Kirk's age, need to be able to manipulate the pocket, not scramble. Kirk did a marvelous job, I thought, on Sunday of remaining calm, shuffling in the pocket, which has been, I think, my single biggest gripe on Kirk from 2018 to 21 was, dude, how do you have no awareness? On Sunday, it seemed that he did have that. And so this all comes back to the conversation that we've had for months now, which is, can Kevin O'Connell's scheme and system and really guidance of Kirk, because that's the most important thing, can that guidance of Kirk result in the desired results? Now, where I will caution you, because it worked against the Packers, and that's great. And I thought the scheme was fantastic. Where I will caution all of us and say we need to slow our roll is, this is now, at least for the starting point, on film. All these defensive coordinators do is sit in dark rooms and figure out how to stop. Like, they have no lives. They're not like, well, I got to take some time out to watch what Kirk did. The Eagles have spent all week in a dark room looking at Jefferson and Cousins. Yeah. And so this is all going to come back to what O'Connell's installing here will be adjusted to. Can you then pivot and adjust to that? So, I mean, but this is the cat and mouse game that's fun. My basic gripe against the Vikings, and this was very true last year, was they never pivoted at all. Like, there was no adjustment needed because it was so predictable and it was so bland. And I mean, I'm sorry, but your 15 scripted plays can't be we got off to a good start. Like, the 15 scripted plays are the very, very beginning of what you want to do and where you want your offense to go. And so I think what's going to be so intriguing in the opening months of this season will be as adjustments are made to Kirk and Jefferson to see what the counters are. And that's where we're going to get into the calculus of football, which is going to be great fun.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds like, I mean, that Kevin O'Connell's been talking about this since the day that he did his introductory press conference, the idea that we will dictate. I think that's what he said verbatim is we will dictate.
And he did it
what we do offensively. And I'd like to maybe do a deeper dive into the second half, and that'll be something we talk about here in the state of the offense. But, why did they peel off a little bit in the second half? Is that something to be concerned about long term, or was it just they were up so much and you're not gonna score 45 points against that defense, because the Packers do have a good defense. Yeah. But let's get to the second category here, which is the Jefferson ratio. So years ago, Mike Tice coined the Randy ratio. I don't know how to make this alliteration. Is there a synonym for ratio that has a J? The Jefferson.
Didn't we talk about this last year too? Oh God, I remember talking.
Yeah, it was justification. I think we did a
justification.
The Justin Justification.
Yeah,
I
think that's what we used last year. Declan's right.
The Jefferson Justification. All right.
Yep.
So how about this? This is pretty bonkers. Kirk Cousins, when targeting Justin Jefferson, averaged 17 yards per throw. Kirk Cousins, when targeting everyone else, averaged 5 yards per throw. That's yardage gained, not yards in the air, like air target, but this is like yards gained, 17 yards gained per throw targeting Jefferson, 5 yards gained per throw targeting everybody else. On one hand, you look at that and say, boy, that's awesome. Justin Jefferson, just keep targeting him. But, you know, there is going to come a point where you're going to throw 30 passes in a game. You know, Cooper Kupp led the league in targets last year. He averaged 11 targets per game. So you're probably not going to get much beyond 11 average targets per game, but you're going to throw 20 more passes in a lot of games. Or do you look at that and say, this is great? Justin Jefferson's doing everything he should, and they got him the ball. Or do you look and say, okay, that's awesome, but, you know, going to need Thielen and KJ and some of these other guys to be more effective than 5 yards per throw, you know?
I look at it and say this. Those guys are going to need to for sure make plays. I think what they're going to need to be experts at, and this was the case against the Packers, and it will continue, and not everyone's going to love this, and so it'll be intriguing to see how this plays out. Osborne and Thielen will make plays. They'll score some touchdowns. That being said, what they are is tremendous decoys. There's some tape now. O'Connell did a breakdown at Vikings.com, which is great. And Darius Butler did one, I think it was him, for the McAfee show, which was fantastic. So and this gets into the how Jefferson was used, because again, I find it very frustrating for the filmsy guys who I'm breaking down film to say, well, Packers really didn't cover him. That is the most lazy, to me, non-starter. That helps me zero. If you're going to break down film, don't just start with, well, they just didn't do a good job of covering him. They didn't, but the question is why, right?
Yeah, what did the Vikings do to make it hard for them?
Exactly, because the Packers didn't scheme up, well, you know what, let's just, screw it. We'll cover Thielen instead. And Darius Butler broke down a play which was marvelous, which was the cornerback was on Jefferson at one point. But the Packers played a ton of zone. Why? Because they didn't think that they could cover him one-on-one in man. And they're probably right about that.
And they're correct, yes.
And they're correct, right, exactly. So, a cornerback can say, I wanted him. It's very easy to say that post-game. I wanted him the whole game. Yeah, sure you did. But the play that Butler broke down, the corner forces inside leverage on Jefferson and dumps him off to the safety. Now, that seems dangerous, but if everybody else is doing their job, it becomes a really good play, because Osborne then, I think, ran a deep route. So the corner had to stay with him on the other side. The point being is, because Jefferson's so damn good, he created space, got open, and made the play. And so this is where I don't think it's an automatic that teams, if you have a better corner, Jefferson's in trouble. That's true against a Thielen. That's true against good receivers. I don't think that's necessarily true across the board against superstar receivers.
Yeah, so I think the play, because I think I saw the same breakdown. Was it all 22? Jefferson lined up on the left side, outside.
He was on the left side, and it's quarters coverage from the Packers.
And KJ Osborne was on the right side.
Yep.
And the scheme of that play, and I'd have to see it again. I should have thought of this 2 days ago and sent it to Dex, but what happened was the Vikings intended very specifically for Jefferson, and it was great against a zone, because you're okay, we're gonna pass him off. The corner's playing so that Jefferson has to go on the inside, and he's kind of working his way across the field from left to right. And the thought is, there's a safety up top. But KJ Osborne is a really good deep threat. And so KJ Osborne gets past the cornerback, and that cornerback thinks that the safety is going to... So the safety has to pick, do I go deep with KJ Osborne, who's running wide open, or do I pick Justin Jefferson running across the field as he makes his way through the different sections of the Packers' zone defense? Correct. It was a schematically perfectly designed play to either break a 40-yard touchdown throw to, or whatever it was, to KJ Osborne, or a wide open Justin Jefferson. And that's the type of sophistication combined with great receivers that is going to lead to.
Yes.
I don't think what we saw in the first half of the first game was just they nailed their scripted plays. I think it was, no, this scheme they're going to be great with the scripted plays, but hopefully it can also trickle into the more improvisational parts of the game as well.
And with the skill position players, especially at receiver, that the Vikings have, this is a pick your poison offense if it's executed correctly. Because if you do sell out, screw it, we're going to double 18, right? Okay, we're just going to double them. We don't care. Someone's open. And so that's the thing. And the beauty about that is no one's questioning this. Kirk can make all those throws. See, that's where it becomes, and that's why I think especially last year was so frustrating, right? Because last year you're like, hold on a second here. You've got these three guys. You've got Dalvin Cook, and you're telling me after 15 plays, that's basically it? So, but yeah, I'm going to get very frustrated by, well, the defense did a terrible job. No, the defense was in trouble from the moment the game started.
Yes. Yep. I kept shouting at my screen every time Justin caught a pass, big dog gotta eat. Nutrisource, like our dogs do. The official dog food of Purple Daily and Mackie and Judd. You'll see on the YouTube channel, this is a very happy and very excited Maya Mackie, our 3-year-old Chihuahua Terrier mix, as I hold a giant scoop of Nutrisource chicken and rice out in front of her. It's all about gut and digestion health, Judd, which is what the humans and the dogs on this show are preaching.
It's very important. And yes, my dog, Stella, she's about 12, 13. And so digestion health becomes very important. There she is, sitting by a bag of treats. And because of that, she is healthy, happy. You know what? Since she started on the Nutrisource food plan, do you know she is now jumping up on a bed which she previously couldn't get up on?
Wow,
that's the type
strength.
of health we're talking about. We're talking about strength. We're talking about joint health. We're talking about digestive health. Yes, Stella is a new dog because, partially at least, our friends at Nutrisource are helping her.
Love it. NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a retailer near you. NutrisourcePetFoods.com. Saw it was a big week for some people on Underdog Fantasy last weekend, week 1 as well.
It was. You can join us for another week of fantasy football, Judd and myself. In fact, so we did week one last week, Michael here on the YouTube channel. He won $18 by finishing in first place in our daily 10-team week 1 fantasy league. You can join that fantasy league too by going to Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code SCORE, SKOR, and it will double your first deposit. You can play fantasy football against us. You can make some great pick'em options. Lines are being set for Thursday Night Football. You got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. So get those, lock those picks in immediately as you can. Join Underdog Fantasy and download the Underdog Fantasy app.
And before we get back to the state of the offense categories here, Minnesota Lotto has jumped back on board for another season with Purple Daily and those glorious Vikings scratch-off tickets.
Yes, I've got props here because I want you to see the number on this ticket, $10.2 million. That's exactly right. And that's the total cash prizes available because it's time to go big with the big ticket scratch game. It's so big. It is huge second chance prizes as well. The lottery, just say I'm in, must be 18 or older to go big. You know what? It should be a fun year for the Vikings, but you know what would be more fun? If you joined in and won big. Minnesota State Lottery. Take your chances today.
Well, let's do it. All right, let's get back to the state of the offense here. Category number 3 is pass protection, offensive line, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is where we break some bad news here, all right? This is where we get balanced as a show. We've been mostly celebratory all week, but the Vikings offensive line as a group had the second worst pass blocking efficiency rate, football, in week 1. Second worst pass blocking efficiency rate in week 1. And there were 2 main culprits. You can probably guess who they were. This next number for you is, and bear with me here, this is percentage of dropbacks by Kirk Cousins, where these offensive linemen bared at least some responsibility for a pressure. Sometimes it's not as easy as one guy got beat. It might be like, a general area where 2 guys got beat, or Kenny Clark splits these 2 guys, right? So Garrett Bradbury bared some responsibility for pressure on 31% of Kirk's dropbacks, which was the highest rate of any center that played in week 1. So on 31% of Kirk's dropbacks, Garrett Bradbury was somewhat at fault for a pressure. Worst rate in the league among centers. Ed Ingram, 38% of snaps, he bared some responsibility for a pressure, which was the 5th highest of any right guard in week 1. So when it came to pass protection, Garrett Bradbury and Ed Ingram were two of the worst at their position among all of the centers and right guards that played. So that's something to for sure clean up. I have a lot of faith still in Ed Ingram, 2nd-round pick, had a great training camp.
One game.
It's your first NFL game. There's definitely room to grow there. For Bradbury, it's really discouraging because it's like this was the rebirth for you, man. This is a new system. It's a new season. It's a new coach. It's everything. And it's a team you've played against a million times so far in your career, and it was the same thing in pass protection for him.
So Clark is great too, which is a problem. I think that O'Connell and the offensive coaching staff is going to do the best they possibly can to scheme around Bradbury's problems, but I don't think there's going to be a change here. Like, he is who he is. He can definitely run block. But when it comes to going against the type of defensive tackles that you have to around this league now, in training camp, we saw nothing different. Like, we didn't see a guy who had taken a step. Tomlinson and Phillips abused him at times.
Yeah.
And so I really think the question is, what type of job can O'Connell and his staff do on a weekly basis when you're going against really good defensive tackles to save Kirk? And Phil, to your point from before, part of that's on Kirk too. Like, Kirk knows the price of poker now. This is not a surprise. It's not, oh my God, my center's not good. Like, he's been behind this guy not receiving sufficient protection for a long time. And so I'm guessing that O'Connell and Kirk have talked about it and been like, dude, we got to do this and that. The fact that Kirk only got sacked once, to me, is incredibly encouraging.
Yeah.
Like that, like, because I'm trying to look at that game and say, what do we sort of learn about what guys can do? And because the hubris of saying that we can scheme around Bradbury's deficiencies is pretty high. Like, there's a chance there's going to be games where you can't. But if more often than not, for at least a year before Bradbury is replaced, you can spend 2022 getting around his pass protection problems, that's going to speak a lot to what O'Connell can do in the actual offensive game plan.
I agree with you that it's encouraging that despite that interior pressure, again, whether it was just Kirk being great about shifting away from it, moving up in the pocket, getting rid of the ball quickly, or them scheming things up to be quick, it didn't really derail the offense. So this, this is about as bad as you can get with a center and a right guard, and the Vikings still dominated. They found a way around it. So that is another misperception, is that even like these guys had kind of train wreck games in pass protection, and Kirk was still clean on 2 out of every 3 throws. It's not when an offensive lineman's getting beat in the NFL, he's not getting beat like 90%, and it's
it just feels like it.
Yeah. Yes. And that brings us to the 4th category here, state of the offense after 1 week, and it's another dose of medicine for the Vikings. What can they do better? 3rd down offense. The Vikings were only 31% on 3rd down, which was one of the 5 or 6 worst rates of any offense in the league. So they did most of their damage in the early downs, and they weren't. I think they were like 4 of 13 or something.
Yep. I'm looking at it
on
right now.
3rd down.
4-13.
So that's an area, and that's an area they were not good last year too. They were, I think, 25th or 26th in the league in 3rd down conversion rate. They were like 35%, and the Chiefs were number 1, pacing the league at, I think, 53% last year. That's absurd. I don't know that I expect that because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and they're just further advanced. Sure. But that is something they're going to have to be better at if they want to sustain this level of offensive success.
How much does the second half concern you? 6 points.
It doesn't concern me yet because they won the game. They dominated so much in the first half. But one of the big themes from the last couple of years is come out of the gate hot, one of the highest scoring first quarter offenses in the league. And then in the second half, especially, I think in the second and fourth quarters, they saw huge drop-offs compared to first and third quarters because things get more murky. Things get more improvisational. There's pressure that teams are maybe they know you're going to pass at the end of a half, and so they're teeing off more. So it's definitely a thing, and it continued that they came out of the gate hot and they didn't back it up in the second half. But I'm not going to hit the panic button at all because of how great they were jumping out to that lead, and some of it was like they were up by 2-3 touchdowns, and they were just trying to lean on the Packers and run the ball more in the second half too. So I don't know. I'm not panicking yet.
I'm going to give you one series, third quarter, where I think you got to dagger teams. Absolutely. And it's the play, or it's the series that started after Rodgers got hit and fumbled, okay? So you're 1st and 10 at the Packers 33. And they got the 56-yard field goal from Joseph from that. But my point being is, I bet you O'Connell is going to go back to that series and say that's where we have to score, like a touchdown. Because if you get a touchdown at that point, I think you basically take away the Packers' will to be there. And if you are in football plus territory when you get the ball, and that's a huge defensive play, like that is such a big play, I think that's the one where you really need to score a touchdown. Because I think if you score a touchdown there, the Packers are like, screw it. And they got a field goal, the Vikings, and I think the Packers were like, oh, okay, held them to a field goal. So that's the one series that I looked at and said, you really want 7 points, because I think that ends any ability the Green Bay thinks that they have at that point to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I think also, and I get what Judd's saying, that you want 7 there, like, because there were some people saying, should they actually go for it on the 4th down? And I believe even the analytics said, honestly, kicking a field goal is going to give you the same amount of winning percentage. The difference in not converting it is not risking it. But to Judd's point, you definitely still want to be able to get 6 when you can, man. And if there's a good situation where you can dagger the team, I think you absolutely have to do it.
Yeah, there's going to be this is what's going to be interesting to follow too with O'Connell, is how aggressive will he be on like 4th down and goal from the 2, from the 3. When do you take your points? When do you not? Because you can make a case. It's so easy to do this retrospectively, but that Monday night game with Denver, how many times was it? 3 empty trips to the red zone, and 2 of them were like 4th down stops inside the 5. If they just kick field goals, they win the game. Generally, I'm all for going for it and being aggressive, but if you can tack points on when you already have, if you can go from like a 3-score lead to a 4 or a 2-score lead to a 3, there's certain leverage points where it might make sense to just kick field goals. So we'll see. Are you guys ready for what are people saying about the Minnesota Vikings?
Absolutely.
Quarterback ranking edition.
Oh yeah. Weekly now. This is great.
Not only is the Ringer doing weekly quarterback rankings, NFL.com is doing it as well.
It's great.
This is great. So Stephen Ruiz is ranking every quarterback here every single week. He put out the new update yesterday on theringer.com. And there's write-ups. It's like these are like Madden profiles for these guys. And they've got like for Patrick Mahomes, they've got him number 1. And a strong and almost elastic arm in combination with an unmatched feel for what's going on around him makes Mahomes the league's most creative passer. And then they have little icons, like attribute icons. Trick shot artist, deceptive eyes, and got that dog in him are the descriptors for Patrick Mahomes. So he's number 1. They've got Aaron Rodgers still as the number 2 quarterback on this list. Interesting. Looked a little shell-shocked to me. Speaking of not great against pressure, boy, he was a disaster against pressure on Sunday. Justin Herbert, 3rd. Josh Allen, 4th. Tom Brady, 5th. Russell Wilson, 6th. I need to see more before I put him 6th.
Reputation.
Yep.
Couple reputation plays so far.
Lamar Jackson, 7. Joe Burrow, 8. Dak Prescott, 9. Kyler Murray, 10. Matt Ryan, 11. Matthew Stafford, 12. Kirk Cousins up from, I think, 16th to 13th in the Ringers rankings.
Slowly but surely.
Maybe the greatest system quarterback of this era, for better or worse. And they have him listed as a check-down machine and a system quarterback in the attributes. But you know what? This is a great system to navigate. So if you can just be a great Kevin O'Connell system quarterback, you're going to put up a lot of points.
And checkdowns are not the end of the world if you use them at the right times.
Yeah. That's how he keeps a completion percentage high throughout his career, too. So he's just ahead of Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Jameis Winston, Ryan Tannehill, Mac Jones, Marcus Mariota. All right. Now over to NFL.com. Mark Sessler doing these weekly quarterback index rankings. He has Josh Allen number 1, Patrick Mahomes number 2, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers 5. So both of these have Rodgers solidly in the top 5. Do you think Rodgers is still one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him 2, but I think 5 is very fair.
Yeah.
He ain't one of the 3. Give me Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert over Rodgers for sure.
He's probably 5. That's probably fair.
I think I would take Tom Brady still over Aaron Rodgers. 5th is probably fair for now. Now.
I mean, he could fall out within the next month of the top 5 for sure.
Lamar Jackson 6, Joe Burrow 7, Matthew Stafford 8, Kirk Cousins 9th, up from 13th a week ago.
I think that's probably very fair right now. I think if you were to ask me right now, being optimistic about the system that he's in, I think I would put him 9th before 13th right now. I think I would have had him 13th at the start of the season. But I never thought that he was like 16th.
This write-up is great. Cousins has long been dinged for not raising the offense around him, for operating as a glass of milk. But this Vikings attack has new energy. I can't believe I'm typing this, but I'm falling for the Minnesota outfit I saw on Sunday. Offensive Player of the Year candidate Justin Jefferson stamping the Packers, working in unison beside a quarterback who delivered the ball with flair. Maybe Kyle Brandt is onto something with Kirk Cousins as the MVP. I'll tell you this, in terms of like system fit, so this system has a lot. And Kirk, here's another stat for you. Kirk actually, of the 33 quarterbacks that qualified in week 1 with enough throws, because Dak came out early and then Cooper Rush also qualified for the Cowboys, he had the 3rd lowest average depth of throw. A lot of short stuff, and there's a couple other guys on that list too that like Matt Stafford is average. It's so schematically, but he was also hunting down the field at times too. But schematically, there's a lot of crossing routes in this offense, and little like there's a jet sweep motion reception so you jet sweep behind line of scrimmage, catch the pass. So it's not always airing it, chunking it down the field. It's oftentimes yards after the catch. And where Kirk Cousins will thrive here is he is one of the most accurate placers of the football in the NFL. And so if on a crossing route, he can put that pass in a perfect spot for 10 yards after the catch, there's not many quarterbacks I would rather have putting a pass on the money on a 12-yard crossing route or a 5-yard crossing route just in front of the line of scrimmage.
And who was the king of yak? King of yak, it's JJ.
Yeah, he's one of them.
I mean, he runs great routes, and then he has the ability then to take off. I'll say this as far as the potential MVP and Kirk conversation goes. If this offense continues to deliver like it did on Sunday, Kirk ain't going to win it because Jefferson will siphon away some votes. Like there's no way, and it's rightfully so. I don't think that there's any way if JJ continues to play like he did, he's going to get some votes, and he's going to siphon them off of Kirk. This is not a put down of Kirk. I'm just saying flat out, they're going to be seen, right or wrong, as a duo if that's success, if it continues.
Yeah, and some of it's going and some of this is correct, that if Kevin O'Connell's going to get a bunch of credit, Justin Jefferson's going to get a bunch of credit, and Kirk will deserve credit if they keep playing like this too. But a lot of it is like the things around him that are changing, and then he is piloting a plane that is just more modern and better, and he will deserve some credit. But if KOC can unlock this thing to a new level, then KOC will get probably more credit than anybody. He'll probably win Coach of the Year, which he is the odds-on favorite right now in many sports books. So
one game, baby. I love it.
Before we get, he's like 8-1 right now.
That's why I love this league.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to random Viking of the week, the Vikings offense is like hail raining down on defenses. And if you need to fix your car after it's been damaged by hail, if only we had a place. Declan?
I think that's Hail Ace, our guy Adam at Hail Ace, a big Purple Daily fan, who will work with the insurance company to help you handle your claim from start to finish. And Hail Ace They do not raise your insurance rate. They will handle all that work for you. He's also a very big Vikings fan, so if you maybe also bring in your car maybe for September, October, because it was a really nasty spring for hail damage here in the Twin Cities, you get entered into a pair of tickets for a late season Vikings game in the Polaris Club of all places, too. So go take care of your car. You can book your appointment now at hailace.com. Go to hailace.com to book your appointment now.
Awesome. Also, what's this Nowhere Haunted House that we are now partnered with? I love horror movies and haunted houses, so
do.
I am attentive here.
Yes, this is the all-indoor haunted house attraction in Inver Grove Heights. They have their weekend attraction. It's called, it's for the thrill seekers. It's Insomnia. It's called Insomnia. They're their hands-on, fully immersed experience. Insomnia is an 18-plus event, and it requires a signed waiver. A signed waiver to go in here. Okay,
Whoa.
It's
What does
pretty spooky.
hands-on mean? Are they gonna kidnap you? Like, what? This sounds intriguing, dude. I'm in on this.
I know you are. I know, and we're big Halloween buffs too. And you can get these tickets and your details at nowherehauntedhouse.com. It's nowherehauntedhouse.com. Inver Grove Heights, just a short drive here in the metro area in the Twin Cities. Go to nowherehauntedhouse.com to book your tickets. Insomnia. Get spooked.
Dude, the waiver thing is at the very least, I'm sure it's necessary with whatever. It's a genius marketing play too, right? Have you guys heard about the haunted house where you dude, it's so you have to sign a waiver.
Insomnia.
You have to sign a waiver.
Scared.
All right, let's get to random Viking of the week here, gentlemen, where every single week Judd is pitted against either me or Declan because Judd is so dominant in this game. And we throw out a series of clues, one by one. We each get up to 3 guesses incorrect until we are eliminated. And Judd usually wins. That's how this game works. Judd has a 35-17 lead over Declan. And then lately, I have beat Judd a couple times.
Yeah.
Declan's beat him like 15
Allison.
times. I got Andre Allison and Travis Taylor. In fact, the last handful of random Vikings are Kadre Ismail, Brian Russell, Jerome Simpson, Travis Taylor, Moritz Boehringer, Andre Allison, and Gus Farrat. The first ever batch of random Vikings, a little over a year ago, Tavares Jackson, Kelly Campbell, Leroy Horde, Jerome Felton, and Hussein Abdullah. And so Declan will be piloting this plane here today.
All right. This random Viking of the week, I'm going to get this first clue out for you right now so you're not maybe thinking too hard or think too hard. Or I don't really care how you go about this, but I just want to make sure that this first clue is very important, okay?
All right.
This random Viking of the week was under contract with the Vikings for 6 months, but never appeared in a regular season game for the Vikings. So we've done Brock Lesnar, you know, we've done coordinators too, so I just wanted out there that he actually never appeared in a regular season game with the Vikings.
Okay.
This random Viking of the week was born across the pond in Dover, England. And played in NFL Europe too, actually. A couple years in NFL Europe for Frankfurt Galaxy.
Oh, I remember the Galaxy.
Yeah, great team.
So 6 months under contract. He never played for him.
This random Viking of the week logged 50 NFL games. 50 NFL games.
None with the Vikings.
This random Viking of the week, although born in England, is technically one of us. Graduated high school in Minnesota at Eastview.
Oh, it's the kicker from the Gophers.
Reese Lloyd.
Reese Lloyd.
Back, you got it. Ding, ding, ding. It's Reese Lloyd. Yes, it's Reese Lloyd. I knew the Eastview giveaway was going to be too much. I shouldn't have said the Eastview giveaway part.
Yeah.
Judd, you should have kept that part in your head. Oh, no. You're mad.
Oh, I'm very upset. I'm very upset. I felt I started to
Is
say
that
it right.
cheap? Is it cheap? I mean, he didn't say the
No,
name.
you didn't say the name.
I started to say it, but then Phil cut in. You know
I'm
what?
upset at myself for giving up Eastview. I knew I should have just kept the Minnesota part.
He kickoff
in it.
specialist.
I thought
Yeah.
Reese Lloyd was from Australia for some reason. I had a college class
I
with him.
remember.
We had
one
some
of my
mutual friends
clues-
in college.
was going to be, I think he went, well, one of them was he kicked the game-winning field goal in the 2003 Sun Bowl against the Oregon Ducks, which probably would have tipped you off that he was a gopher.
For 6 months, because he came here as a kickoff specialist and I think didn't make it out of training camp.
Correct.
He was one of my favorite college punters because he did the Australian style, like he would roll out to the left or the right when he punted.
Yeah, that's
so there was like
too.
What's that?
The flat ball, because they dropped the ball weird. The Australian style punters drop the ball weird. And so instead of spiraling up, it sort of drops weird and then has a different spiral.
So what he would do is he probably did this a handful of times watching him in college. He would roll out, and then if the return unit would all have their backs to him running down the field, he would just run behind. He would just keep running. No one. They think I punted. No one's watching me. He would just run for like 20 yards. He also kicked the game winner against Wisconsin at the Metrodome in 2003 to win the axe.
Yes.
And then sprinted across and grabbed the axe. So there it is. Boy, that is a dirty way for me to get a point there. Judd did all of the work, and I was quicker on the buzzer.
That's a cheap win.
If you would have kept in your head, if you would have said in your head,
I didn't think you'd get it as quick. So no, it's fine.
Other clues included he led the NFL in touchbacks with Carolina in 2008.
Yep.
Led the league, and he was the kickoff specialist while John Casey handled the field goals for Carolina.
Yeah, that's what he was here too.
Yeah.
I think he came in at the same time Longwell was here, and they were going to have him handle kickoffs, and then they're like, this is a waste of a roster spot.
He had 224 kickoffs in his NFL career, 0 field goals attempted.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
so he never attempted a field goal.
No room for that on a roster anymore. Right?
And according to his LinkedIn page, he now runs a soccer academy because he's also he lettered in soccer at Eastview, and also works for the golf app Golf Now, which we can, which I've used to book some tee times before too. So he's living in Florida, living his best life.
Good for him. I seem to recall that Ryan didn't take that real well when they brought in a kickoff specialist to replace.
No,
it's kind of it's like I can do the kickoffs, guys.
Yeah, it's like it's how you question a kicker's manhood that we don't think you can kick the ball far enough into the end zone, so we're gonna bring someone else in to do it.
And this was still when the kickoffs were from, was it the 30? They're from the 35 now. Is that right?
I think so.
So it's like touchbacks were harder to come by. Now it's like not that hard.
Yep.
Well,
so all right, we have cut the lead from 35 to 18. That's what happens when you
tactical mistake by me. We're gonna look at the film.
Think out loud. You give away clues to your opponent.
We're gonna look at the film. We're gonna go back and look at the film. Easily correctable.
Don't forget about Vikings Vent Line after Eagles Vikings on Monday, the most fan-friendly, interactive show in Minnesota sports. And please click the subscribe button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We'll see you guys tomorrow.